So let me start off by saying, I've never done something like this. Matter of fact, I've never even written a story before. Heck, I was barely in school. But what I'm about to tell you is very true. I might leave out some details, but soon you'll understand why. To this day, it still haunts me, and the memories will forever hit me like bullets. I'm from a big city, pretty popular in Texas. Most of y'all may know what city I'm referring to already. Anyways, I grew up in a household where my father, who I never even met, was never around. This left my mother playing both roles for me and my younger sister. I'm 22 now, but at the time all of this took place, I was maybe 18, turning into 19. My mother struggled a lot raising 2 kids and working 2 jobs, so there wasn't ever really much family time in our home. As I got older, I started to realize that I really didn't like to see my mother struggle, and working for me wasn't in the picture. So, as a young teenager, I chose to start selling drugs. I know, it wasn't the smartest idea, but at the time I just wanted to be the man of the house and give my mother a stress-free life. As time went by, I started to grow deeper into the drug business. I didn't hang around your average school friends. Most of my friends were either fresh out of jail or still on probation. Anyways, my mother knew the trouble I was getting myself into. Heck, at one point I even went to jail my damn self. But there's one night I'm never going to forget. Now, looking back at it, I should have just applied at McDonald's. It was a late October Halloween night. I was 18 at the time, and trick-or-treating was just not a thing for me. My mom and sister decided they wanted to give out candy in our neighborhood. I had all my friends with me at my house. We noticed a black car driving very slowly by the front of my home. I didn't think anything of it, as kids were running up and down screaming for candy. I figured they were just following a family or something. Many people would have an adult get out of the car with their kids and another one following in a vehicle to make sure they were safe. Something about this car, though, was just really off. Maybe I started to figure it out because my other friends pointed out how strange it was as well. Remind you, my friends were not the type to be scared easily. As the night grew on, the streets started to die down. We decided to wrap it up and call it a night. Me and my friend helped my mother clean up the outside and put our speaker inside the house. We were using it to play scary sounds and music on the lawn. My other 2 friends had to head home early, since it was getting a bit late for them. As we were cleaning up, I walked around the side of the house to unplug our extension cord that we were using, when I noticed from the corner of my eye that same black car. At this point, my heart was thumping so loud, I thought I'd left the speaker on. I knew something was up. I just knew it. Something was coming. I felt a disturbance deep in my stomach. I quickly ran inside and told my friend to lay low and turn off the lights. My mother and sister could see the panic in my face. I don't know why I was so worried. It could just be anybody lost or looking for their kids. But for some reason, I couldn't help but fear the worst. As I peeked out the window, the car parked in front of my house. Well, our house was the last one on the block, so all the other homes were pretty far from us. As my friend and I both peeped out of the curtains, we see a man step out of the driver's side door. The man was huge, like NBA player huge. Tall and skinny, with an awkward stance, almost like a drunk man trying to hold on to something to keep himself from falling. The street was dark, so I couldn't really see his face or make out any facial features. He just stood there. But what happened next is what made my blood run cold and my friend shake out of his skin. The man slowly raised his hand and pointed directly towards our house. "What the fuck? Is this some kind of sick fucking joke?" my friend yelled. I told him I wasn't sure. I knew we couldn't call the cops. My room had things that could get me more jail time, so either way I was screwed. The man then slowly pulls out a knife and pretends to slice over his neck, almost as if saying he wanted to kill me, or all of us. I didn't know. Maybe even himself. The man slowly got back into his car and drove off. Me and my friend were just sitting there stuck. "Hey man, you think that could be some dopehead that followed you home?" my friend asks. "I don't know, man, but if it is, he's not getting anything out of me. I'll shoot that motherfucker if I have to." Me and my friend decided to just chill and smoke a blunt to calm down our nerves. Meanwhile, my mother and sister had fallen asleep in my mother's room. I'm pretty sure they were still full of fear, but somehow they managed to fall asleep. It's maybe around 2:30 a.m. when my friend tells me, "Look, bro, I gotta go home. My probation officer comes by at 6 a.m., and if I'm not there, I'm in deep shit." I looked at him with a strange face, but I just told him, "Look, man, be careful. I don't know who that dude is or what he wants, but just be careful. I'm good, bro. Nothing can hurt me. I'm in God's hands." That was the last thing I ever heard my friend say. My friend didn't live far. He lived on the next street over, so I knew he could get there in no time. He was walking, but he was so fast that if it came down to running, there was no way anybody was going to catch him. We said goodbye and he left. I woke up not even 2 hours later, maybe about 4:30, to a sort of clicking sound. Not the sound of a gun clicking, but almost like a metal-on-metal click. It was coming right from my window. At this point, the man's image rushed back into my head, so I started shitting bricks again. I reached under my pillow for the gun I hid there. As I slowly approached the window, the clicking finally stopped. Was I really going to look out there? Did I really want to see what was out there? I didn't know what to do. I froze like a statue, not knowing what to do at all in this situation, but I grabbed myself together and peeked out the window. What I saw almost made me scream. The same man was out there, clicking the damn knife against the cement floor, almost as if he was scraping it clean. That's it. I'd fucking had it with this son of a bitch. I rushed out my front yard and cocked my gun. "Look, motherfucker, unless you want to be on the 6 o'clock news, you need to get the hell out of here." By that time, my mom had awoken and was begging me to come inside. She told me she was going to call the police. All of a sudden, the man said,
"Ha! You don't scare me. I'm the devil. Nothing scares me."
He started to dance around his car like a crazy person, yelling and screaming, yelling that Satan was his father. Meanwhile, the street was dark, and I was trying very hard to make out his face. At this point, I fired off 2 shots in the air, which made him freak out and get in his car and burn off. He hit my mailbox on the way out. I hurried and ran inside my house, grabbed the few drugs I had, and flushed everything down the toilet. I knew any minute now the police were going to show up. Soon, they did. I'm not sure what my mom told them, as I sat in my room trying to gather all my thoughts together, just trying to calm myself down. By this time, it was almost 6 a.m., and the sun was beginning to peek out. What a night. I fell asleep, only to hear the sound of a loud banging on my door and screaming from my mom. She was crying her heart out with her phone in her hand, trying to speak. She tells me, "Your friend, he's dead." The police had found him dead with a stab wound. My friend, he was gone. After just seeing him that night, just suddenly gone. I know many of you may have questions. The man out there was a dopehead. From what I know that night, he had gotten extremely high. He had heard rumors saying that I had a lot of money and drugs hanging around, which I really didn't, due to the fact that I was starting a job and wanted to start getting away and better my life. The man was extremely crazy. He was so high that he followed my friend back to his house. He grabbed him and forced him to tell him what he wanted, to give him his money, drugs, even oral sex. I don't want to get into too much details out of respect, but my friend put up a fight that ultimately cost him his life. You may also be wondering how they actually caught that man. Well, you see, the car that he was driving around the neighborhood had been stolen. He had been casing my house for a while, and following my friends around as well, so he could know who I was and who I hung out with. The police did question me in the end. I denied a lot of things, but I was charged for the gun, since I wasn't allowed to have one due to previous jail time. As of now, I'm leaving a lot of details out to respect my friend's family, and for my lawyer. But the man is now serving a life sentence without the chance of parole. I miss my friend a lot, and to be honest, I blame this all on myself. Why couldn't I have just gotten a normal 9-to-5 job as a normal person? I miss him, and I'm sorry. But like he always said, he's always in God's hands. First of all, I'll clear up any confusion. I'm a 30-year-old male. This story took place when I was only 16 years old, while I still lived in Phoenix, Arizona. This all took place during my party phase, drinking and smoking a lot of weed. I would hold parties at my house every other weekend, when my mom was visiting her long-distance boyfriend out of town. I became relatively popular due to these parties I threw. When you want to smoke, you want to smoke. My mom was in town, and we couldn't light up at my house. When I say we, I mean my cousin and me. My cousin is like my brother, and we did everything together growing up. So we decided to take a drive. This was the perfect night for it. Phoenix usually doesn't get too many lightning or rainstorms, but tonight was a different story. The clouds were being lit up by constant lightning bolts, and the thunder provided an amazing backdrop for a night out. We rolled up a couple blunts and drove to a park by my house. I lived in a fairly affluent neighborhood in the north part of town. We weren't rich or anything, but the crime was at a minimum. I remember feeling so excited to hang out with my best friend, just watching the storm and getting a little high. I'm 30 now, and I don't smoke anymore, but at the time it was the thing to do. So, no party at my house, but we were having a lightning storm-infused party of our own. This is where the story takes a turn. While I'm pulling up to the park, Arizona iced teas and weed in hand, we both see something unusual. Not to say that I haven't seen anything unusual in this neighborhood before. People tagging and even a few instances of fights at the park weren't unusual, but this night took the cake. We pull up, and across the street from where we park is a white BMW. The car wasn't parked. It was rolling down at about 2 miles per hour along the sidewalk that was adjacent to a neighborhood of houses. As the car is slowly moving along, my cousin and I take a second look. At first, it didn't seem so strange, but we could tell something wasn't right. In front of the car, walking along the sidewalk, was a young boy. He may have been around the age of 10 or 11. As he walked, he was looking nervously over his shoulder again and again at the white car. This reminded me of something out of a nature documentary, where you know the prey is about to be pounced on by a lion or panther. If this gets a little long, please forgive me. I want to give a full description of what happened next. We pulled up right alongside and parked across the street from this car and the kid. I can immediately see the driver look right over to us and put his car in park. As soon as we see the car stop, the young boy takes off running as fast as he can. He looked almost like an Olympic sprinter running for the gold. The boy disappeared somewhere into the neighborhood, and the driver shoots open his door. Immediately, he crossed the street and approached my car. My cousin and I hadn't even had the time to take a sip of our drinks or spark the blunt at this time. He approached, and I decided to roll up my window all the way. Bang! He hits the window with his fists and starts yelling at us through the glass. I was cocksure and decided to hear him out. Rolling my window down just a couple of inches allowed me to get a better look at this man. Do you think he was wearing a business suit, or even a pair of jeans and a t-shirt? My brain reeled as I took in his terrifying visage. No shirt, no shoes, jogging shorts from the 80s, barely enough to cover his package since they were so high. And this guy was sweating. Not sweating like he'd just gotten home from the gym and was making sure his kid was heading home. No. He was profusely sweating from head to toe, and his eyes were bulging out of his head. He nearly cracks my window with another knock. I ask him, "What do you want?" The man proceeds to tell me he's going to call the cops on us because we're using drugs at his park, given we were about to smoke. But that was nothing compared to the vibe this man was giving off. I promptly roll up my window, put the car in drive, and slam on the gas. My cousin and I looked at each other with the biggest "what the fuck was that" expression. While my four-banger engine struggles to get us out of there, I see the man run straight to his souped-up BMW and slam the door closed. Now it's a chase. I know the area well, and could see the oncoming stop sign. Nope, I blow right through it, and keep on trucking. My engine is screaming at me for the trouble I'm putting it through, but at this point I don't know what this fucker is capable of. I blow through another stop sign, and continue screaming down a neighborhood street. At this point I don't see any headlights behind me. I decide it's a good decision to take a left and bail through some side streets. In my panicking state, I took a wrong turn, and guess what? Like a horror movie, it was a dead end. Thinking on my feet, I decided to pull down into a driveway and shut the lights of my car off. All of those years of driving correctly led to my downfall. I pull into the driveway, shut my lights off, and park. I see the car slam on its brakes, and then I realize I left my damn turn signal on. The car reverses and pulls into the dead-end street we parked on. I know we need to get the hell out of there at this point. I throw my car into reverse and whip right out of the driveway. Have you ever played chicken? The game where the last person to jump out of the way is a chicken? Well, with both of our cars pointed nose to nose, this was a high-risk game of chicken. I go left, he goes right. I go right and he goes left, leaving only about 2 feet between the front bumpers of our cars. I look to my cousin and say, "What the fuck?" My cousin is a very strong dude. He's done Brazilian jiu-jitsu and used to play football in the past. I've been in a lot of fights, and myself can handle a confrontation. Without saying a word, we decide enough is enough. We open our doors and get out to confront this scumbag who's possibly a child abductor. As we exit the car, we see him do the same. He was standing there in the street with almost no clothes, sweat dripping down from head to toe. A long hammer was extending from his right hand, and the look in his eyes was completely deranged. I won't try to make this story more exciting for your pleasure, but I swear to the big G, lightning flashed right behind him, and all we could see is the silhouette of a crazed man holding a hammer. Instantly we said, "Fuck this." We got back in my car. I swerved to my left and barely missed hitting him. As we blow past him, a loud crack erupts from the back side of my car. My cousin cries out, "That fucker just threw the hammer at us!" We proceeded to scream down the neighborhood at probably 50 miles per hour, constantly looking back for headlights. Finally, we pulled into a relatively safe street and parked. As we got out, my hands were shaking so bad I couldn't even hold my keys properly. I don't know what would have happened to that kid if we hadn't pulled up right then. I like to think that we saved him from a terrible fate, but I'm not so sure. The next day, we got a crew together with baseball bats. We searched the whole neighborhood for that BMW, but to no avail. Vigilante justice is not the best thing, but when you're 16 or 17, your brain works in mysterious ways. So, to the drugged and sweaty guy who was following a kid and then threw a hammer at my cousin and me, let's never meet again. Hey everyone, it's my first time submitting anything like this, so please be easy on me. I've been listening to a lot of the stories here, and one brought back some memories I wish I had forgotten all about. I was in the 5th grade when this happened. I have a younger brother, who at the time was only in 3rd grade. We lived in Glendale, Arizona at this time. We didn't have a bus stop for the school near us, so we had to walk to the school. My mom would walk us to school every day. It was about a 30-minute walk to and from, but we had to take a lot of small and back streets. We lived on the nice side of town, but the school was almost smack dab in the center of the bad side, and therefore we always had to walk down some creepy-looking streets. My mom would never let us walk alone, or with anyone else. She made sure to drop us off, right in front of the office where the principal of the school would always be there to say hello to us. It was a Friday morning when this happened. We all woke up to get ready for school. We were already a few minutes behind, and my mother never liked us being late, so she tried to rush us to have breakfast and start our walk to school. My brother had never had coffee before, and that day he asked for some because he was tired. My mom made him some coffee, and he quickly drank it as we started walking to the school. Halfway there, my brother started complaining, saying that his stomach was hurting very badly, and started to cry as we kept walking for a few more minutes. Eventually, he had an accident on himself, so my mom had to walk him back. She never lets us walk to school alone, but as my brother had just had quite a severe accident, she had to go back. She looked at me and said, "Walk straight to school, and don't talk to anyone on your way there. Make sure when you get there you walk directly into the office. Have them call me to make sure I know you got to school safely." Of course, I said okay. I kept going on my way. As I continued to walk, I noticed some of the people were going the long way. I had found a shorter way around a few days ago, so I figured I'd take the shorter way to school. It was through a long back alley that ended in a dirt field, and right across the empty field was the school. I started to walk, and didn't realize that I was completely alone now until halfway there. I started to panic, so I started to speed walk. As I walked past this big green trash can, I could feel someone's eyes lock onto me. I looked back, and there was an older man in his mid-30s. He stunk of alcohol and cigarettes, and he looked at me and smiled in a creepy way. I felt as if my heart had flown out of my body. The man pulled out a knife. I started to run as fast as I could. The man started to run behind me. I could feel him swinging at me and pulling my backpack. Without looking back or stopping, I threw it off of my shoulders and kept running. Later on, I found out that he didn't try to punch me, but he had actually swung at me with his knife and ripped open my backpack. I didn't have time to look at that to notice it, as I was freaking the fuck out. I kept running and crying, screaming. I couldn't see anyone around. I felt like I was running for hours, but it was maybe only a few minutes. As I got closer to the empty field, I could see some kids and their parents walking through. I ran as fast as I could to them and tried to explain to them what was happening. I must have passed out while doing this because I was so scared, because I remember waking up in the school's office, surrounded by police. By then, the school had contacted my mother, and she was already on her way. An older female cop came up to me. She kneeled down and said, "Are you okay, buddy?" I was in shock that all this shit was happening. I started to cry and hugged her tight. When she hugged me back, I never felt so safe until that moment. A few minutes later, my mom got there and started hugging me, apologizing for making me walk home alone. The female cop came back into the office once again and told me that they needed me to describe what the man looked like. I tell them, he's a tall man, mid-30s, about 230 pounds with a big cut scab on his left eye. Later, I found out how he got that. The cops looked at each other, and they gave me a look that I'll never forget. The female cop asked me if I had seen any tattoos on the man's neck. I said no and asked why. She goes on to tell us that a few months ago, a girl that was about the same age as me had walked down that same alleyway. She was attacked and raped by a man who sounded just like the man I had described. I felt sick as she told me this. And they took my report down, and 2 weeks after that the police called us. And they told us they had caught the man trying to sneak into the girls' bathroom in a nearby park, and they wanted me to come down and identify him. So we had to go down to the police station. I know the story seems all over the place, but I was around 10 or 11 at the time. I had passed out, so I don't remember everything in between. Thankfully, I was not the only one there, as the girl he had raped was also there. It made me feel like I wasn't alone. We both saw the man, and both said that yes, it was him. And that's pretty much all I can remember. A few years ago, I had asked my mom if she remembered some of the things. She looked at me and said, "How could I forget?" My mom had kept in contact with the mother of the girl who had been raped. She explained to my mom what happened. I never wanted to ask, but later my mom told me about the scar that man had. The one over his eyes he had gotten from the girl. When she was getting raped, she had somehow gotten a hold of a rock and smacked the man over the head with it. That's how she was able to get him off of her. I don't really know how the rest of her story went, but I do feel really bad for her. I was thankful that he didn't get me, because God only knows what would have happened to me after. This incident occurred about 20 years ago, when I was 12 and my older brother was 16. We live in Texas, and in an area in the country with some pretty thick woods. All of our childhood was spent exploring these woods, and we know them like the back of our hands. It was nothing for us to leave early in the day and barely make it home before dark. We would spend most of our time building forts, as we called them, out of old lumber and branches. We had lots of grapevines that worked well for swinging, much like George of the Jungle. One night, we heard some loud music playing. We thought our cousin was having a party, which was not uncommon for him to do. It was around 11 p.m. at night. We asked our mom if we could head up there to go check it out, and she agreed. He lives about 2 acres behind us up the hill, and the property continues for about 7 more acres to my grandmother's house. However, when we got over to his house, he was fast asleep. We could barely hear the music now, coming from further back. Bummed out, we headed home, when the sound of the music got louder, like someone had turned it up. We curiously decided to go further back and see if maybe for some crazy reason my uncle or grandmother was playing it. This was highly unlikely, as it was heavy metal and they weren't the types to listen to that. As we reached our house, she was fast asleep as well, and my uncle wasn't even home. Again, we decided to head back home, and as we turned to walk away, the music got louder again. We both recognized the horror movie plot here. The music getting louder to try and draw us towards it, but we ignored that rubbish. My brother picked up a large stick, while I armed myself with a small garden shovel. Off we went into the woods to find the source of this mystery music. These woods were extremely thick, and in the spring at night, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. Being unprepared for all of this, all we had were a couple of cigarette lighters, which didn't help the lighting much. As we started walking, we had to go slow, dodging branches and spider webs the whole way, stopping to listen to footsteps around us. They were probably coyotes or bobcats or wild rabbits, which we have many of around here. We reached an open field after 10 minutes of walking. The music was extremely loud now, and across the field, which was the size of a couple football fields, was another patch of trees. We could make out through the trees that there was a small bonfire going. We decided to walk up to the tree line to see what kind of party this was, and if maybe we knew any of the people there. We walked slowly across the field and reached the tree line, and as we began to walk into the trees, the music suddenly stopped. We froze still, being extra quiet so nobody would hear us. At this point, we didn't know who or what was over there, and we definitely didn't want to get caught and have God knows what done to us if for some reason there was a bad person or a group of bad people. Reality started to set in, and we thought, who the hell comes this far into the woods to have a party, unless they don't want to get caught? Why are we even here? We're so stupid. I just want to go home. As we control our breathing and just stare at each other waiting to see what happened next, the music comes back on and changes to lightning sounds, glass breaking, screams, all blaring from the speakers, which must have been huge because this was extremely loud. To this day, we don't know if the next part was on an album or if it was from a microphone. A man's deep voice spoke, saying,
"Why do you worship your circle of God? Osa mote la jiven."
That's about all we got out of his satanic chanting. We turned and ran as fast as we could. Our weapons went flying, and so did our lighters. We ran all the way home through pitch-black woods, trees hitting us, thorn bushes cutting our faces, but we didn't stop until we reached our house. We told our parents about the whole thing, leaving out no details at all. My dad goes on to tell us that when he was younger, there were a family of devil worshippers that lived far, far back on the other side of the woods. We were lucky that nothing happened to us, and of course we were grounded for a while after that. To this day, I still wonder if it was just a group of harmless teenagers playing some questionable music, or if something sinister was going on deep in the woods when we heard that music. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. As always, be sure to let me know what you guys think, and please feel free to like, comment, or subscribe if you feel so inclined. I know some people have also had some problems about videos not appearing in their sub box, so please make sure to hit that little bell if you guys want to always be notified of when my next video comes out. As always, links to all of my social media will be in the description of the video below. You can find links to my Twitter, Gmail, Twitch, and Facebook accounts. So if you guys ever want to talk to me, just go ahead and shoot me a message on any of those, and I'll try to respond to your message as soon as possible. I'm also going to start trying to stream on Twitch a little bit more, so if you guys have notifications on there, you'll be notified right away when I go live. I might also try to do some on YouTube, but I haven't decided yet. I'm still kind of trying to decide what kind of streams I want to do. Anyways, if you guys have a story you would like to send in, or if you have a story you would like to suggest that I read, go ahead and send me a message on any of those links in the description below. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include the title, how you would like to be credited, and any genres that the story might have, if it does have one. If you guys are curious about the music used in this video, go ahead and take a look in the description below as well. I always put all of the music in the order in which it appears in the video, and I also have links to the artists as well. Last but not least, I also have a Patreon if you guys feel like you want to contribute to the channel a little bit, but of course, as always, it is never required and you will never have to pay for watching any of my videos, so that's just something you do if you feel like it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please be sure to leave your feedback in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you very much.